13, For unto us in Jesus' name, chapter 26. It is getting so close to Christmas. It is December 23rd, 11 a.m., Monday morning, at the Quinn home, Los Angeles, California. JoJo Adams pulled his F-150 up in front of the tiny blue house with the yellow door. He drew a deep breath. He acknowledged in his own mind that he was excited to see her again. Obviously, he was attracted to her. Who wouldn't be attracted to such a beautiful girl? He headed up the small, narrow walkway to the door and knocked. It took a full minute for the door to open. "Hello, Cali," JoJo said softly, immediately taking in her condition. The swelling was starting to go down a little, but the bruising was more colorful than ever. "Hi, JoJo," she said sullenly. "She's not home yet." "Oh, where did she go?" "Well, she had a couple of patients this morning that she said couldn't wait until the clinic opened again after Christmas. So her boss asked her to come in. She should be home soon." He nodded. "Okay. Well, may I come in?" "Oh, yeah, sorry, I wasn't thinking." He stepped back and he walked in the door. "Have a seat," she offered. He sat on the small sofa and looked up at the girl. "How are you feeling, Kaylee?" She shrugged. "Okay, I guess." "You seem a little down." She shrugged again. "Ray says the same thing, and she made an appointment for this evening for me to go with her to see Dr. Wallace and talk to her father." JoJo nodded. "Good. That's my grandfather." "I don't know what good it'll do." "Well, my grandfather is a doctor, too. He's a doctor of psychology, and he can help you to not feel so down anymore." "Whatever." JoJo smiled and patted the sofa beside him. "Come sit for a minute." She sat down. "Kaylee, do you wish that I hadn't come along and kept Scott from killing you?" She looked up. "Huh? That's a dumb question." "Right? But it appears that you are unhappy about something, and I would think that you'd be grateful about some things." "Like what?" "Like my boyfriend is in jail? Like my face looks like Shrek? Like I'm going to have to make up a semester of schoolwork? Or how about like you're not dead?" She grunted. "Sometimes I wish I was." He nodded and sighed, so it wasn't such a dumb question. He quickly asked for guidance. "Kaylee, there are certain things that we can't control. You can't control what others do. You can't control certain situations like having to make up schoolwork. The only thing you can control is yourself, your attitude, your thoughts, that kind of thing. So things might be a little bit hard right now, but you're going to get through them. And because you do, you'll be stronger than ever. So you need to change your way of thinking and stop feeling sorry for yourself. And how you do that is to find your gratitude. He didn't kill you. He didn't permanently injure you with like a brain injury where you'd have to be taken care of for the rest of your life. That's something to be grateful for. And it's a good thing he's in jail, Kaylee, because he's done this before, twice before that we know of. And you might have saved another person's life by putting him in jail." "Yeah, but now I don't have a boyfriend." "So what?" Her mouth opened in surprise. "I understand, Kaylee, that you think you need a boyfriend, that it's nice to have someone to spend time with, a partner, a companion. But you don't need a boyfriend. You need a husband. A real man who will love you and protect you and whom you don't have to fear. And that's not Scott. He never intended to marry you. He wanted from you, well, what men want from women. You need someone you can trust, someone who appreciates you. You deserve a good man. So stop pining over some guy who became so angry that he beat you almost to death. If I hadn't stopped him, you'd be dead. Do you remember how scared you were right after he hurt you? Do you remember how you didn't want me to leave your side? Do you think a boyfriend should make you feel that way?" "Well, maybe I deserved it." "Good grief," JoJo said as he shook his head. "Kaylee, you are a beautiful daughter of God, and what you deserve is a good, godly man who protects you, not one who punches you in the face, no matter what you did or said. And Kaylee, you'll have that. I promise you, you clean up your own life. You live how God intended you to live, clean and pure, and pray and live by his laws. And the right man will find you and marry you and take care of you, and you'll never be lonely again. A man who doesn't care about God's laws, who sleeps with you before you're married, who lies, who yells, who physically hurts you, that man will never make you truly happy. Cali, you deserve a good man. I mean, you are worthy of a good man. And God will send you a good man. Just stop looking and work on yourself. And stop being ungrateful. And stop brooding over a man that tried to kill you. If you're truly concerned about him, I guarantee you, this is the best thing that can happen to him. Because he now has a chance to turn his life around. And letting him get away with what he's been doing, that doesn't help him. That condemns him to hell. Now he has a chance to make a change. And I hope he does. Don't play into feeling sorry for him. Make him take responsibility. And you also take responsibility for rising up and get better and do better. Wow. So what's going on? Are you two arguing? JoJo stood as Raylin came in the door. Hey, Raylin, no, we're not arguing, but I was trying to help Kaylee to buck up and stop pining over the guy who would have been her murderer. I may have overstepped my bounds, and if so, then, Kaylee, I apologize. It's only because I truly care about you. Kaylee shrugged and nodded. It's okay. I guess you, gave me some things to think about. She stood. I'm going to go back to bed. She left the room. Both JoJo and Raylin watched her go. JoJo turned back to Raylin. I'm sorry. Really, I may have gone too far. She nodded. It's okay. Maybe she'll listen to you because she sure won't listen to me. Why not? You're her older sister, right? You're actually supporting her right now, right? You're taking care of her, right? Yes, but the dynamic between the two of us is reversed. I'm kind of quiet and reserved. She's dominant. She's the pretty one, the bright one, the outgoing one, the funny one, the brave one. JoJo shook his head. You are pretty, Raylin. You are absolutely beautiful. How could you not know that? Her eyes opened wide in surprise. He looked down quickly. I'm sorry if that was too forward. It just slipped out. She gave a nervous laugh. It's okay. You can take it back if you want. He frowned. Take it back? No, I don't want to take it back. I said what I meant. If anything, I'll double down on it. I only apologize because I didn't mean to embarrass you. She cleared her throat. Okay, well, then thank you for the compliment. I'm sorry I was late getting home. I got stuck in traffic. Do you still want to head to the grocery store? He nodded. Yes, it won't take long. I have a list, and my mom sent a note for me to share with you that has all the directions. I already brought you the raw milk because we have to go to a special farm to get it. But when it runs out, just let me know, and I'll bring you some more. It's in a cooler in my truck. Let me go ahead and get it in here so you can put it in the fridge, and then we'll head out. How long do you have? She shrugged. I have all day. Until this evening. Why? Well, I was also going to invite you and Kaylee to join me and a few others. We're going to go hand out backpacks and food to the homeless. Oh, well, yes, that is so nice. Yes, I'd like to do it, but I don't know how Kaylee will feel about it. Well, it will be really good for her to stop feeling sorry for herself and concentrate on helping others for a little while. Raylin nodded. Still, I don't know how to get her to come. He sighed and walked down the hall and knocked on Kaylee's door. She opened it and looked up at him. Yes? Raylin and I are going out shopping to get some stuff to help you heal faster. Be dressed and ready to go when we get back. Oh, where are we going? It's a surprise, but it will be fun. Just wear some jeans and athletic shoes, and we'll be back in an hour. And if you don't want me to come in here and dress you myself, then be ready. Her mouth dropped open. JoJo turned and walked back to Raylin, whose mouth was also open. He smiled at the gorgeous girl in the pink scrubs and pasted a stern look on his face. And you have 5 minutes to get changed. She closed her mouth and rushed to her room. New scene. It is still December 23rd. It is 1 p.m. Monday afternoon, South Los Angeles, California. Senior Agent Division Chief Jeff Davis looked over the group standing around the old abandoned gas station. His own boys, Dan and Jeremy, soon to be 13 and 12, were in the bed of his truck, unfolding and handing out rolling carts to be filled with the backpacks and tents. Jeff called the group together. It was David, Carol, Philip, Lyle, and Melody Keith, Logan and JoJo Adams, Raylan and Kaylee Quinn, young Eric Kino and Jordan, and Josie and Jamie Brooks. And also in attendance were Agents Stanton and Torres, because Jeff decided they needed eyes on the group constantly to ensure their safety. Okay, everyone, gather round, Jeff called. First, I want to say thanks to the Keith family for inviting me to help with their project over these past weeks. As some of you know, they went out on their own last month before Thanksgiving and helped as many as they could. But this month, they wanted to go out on a bigger scale. Carol mentioned it to Mickey, and she mentioned it to me, and I am excited to be able to help. But you know, I also want to keep everyone safe. So for the first-timers, the rule is no one goes on their own. Stay with your partner or your group. He pulled out his phone. These are today's groups, as I've been told. Let me know if anything has changed. With me are my boys and Jamie Brooks. And David and Carol will stay together. Logan, Melody, and Lyle will stay together. Philip, JoJo, and our newcomers, Raylan and Kaylee Quinn, will be a group. Everyone say hello to the Quinn sisters. Everyone did, though many had already greeted them. Raylan, dressed in jeans and an old USC sweatshirt, smiled sweetly at everyone. Kaylee also wore jeans and a sweatshirt, but she had her hoodie pulled over her head and wore large sunglasses to cover her bruised face. She didn't smile, but only nodded. Okay, that leaves young Eric, Jordan, and Josie as a group. These two big guys are Agents Torres and Stanton. You run into any problem, you yell at them, they'll respond. Okay, so we're going to cover this area, which is about a mile. Young Eric's group is going to handle the dog food. The rest of you have carts loaded down with backpacks and tents. Like we did at Thanksgiving, if you run into any special cases, like someone is ill or children, we'll take care of special services. David, would you like to add anything? David Keith nodded. Yes. I just want to say thanks to you all for supporting and helping with our project over the past 2 weeks. You've been great. So as usual, let's start with a prayer. Philip, would you say it? Philip smiled and nodded, yes, sir. He bowed his head and gave thanks for the opportunity to serve. He asked for protection, and he asked God to place in front of them anyone who might need extra help. And once the prayer was finished, the group grabbed their carts and headed down the road. Young Eric, Jordan, and Josie headed back to JoJo's truck, because it held 6 large trash cans, the big ones, like sanitation departments use, with wheels and the attached tops that flip back. They were black and had the words dog food stenciled on the front and back in white paint. Each one was filled with dry dog food and had an attached scoop. The Keiths had mentioned that there were a lot of dogs in the homeless camps they visited, and those dogs' ribs were showing. Jordan jumped up in the truck and rolled the nearest trash can to the edge, and 3 lifted it down, and they unloaded 1 more. Josie, grab those 2 bags right there, young Eric said. Josie picked up the large grocery-type bags with handles and peered in. One was full of leashes, and the other was full of dog brushes. Jordan leaned her can back on its wheels. Young Eric did the same, and they headed down the road. It didn't take long before someone approached them. You got dog food? An old man said. Young Eric nodded and smiled. Yep, you got dogs? He nodded. Yes, sir. Got 2. Do you know anyone else in this area that has dogs? He turned and started pointing. That dude over there has a pit, and see that blue tent? They got a lab. Those guys over there behind that big bush, they got a mutt that just had pups. Eric nodded. Okay, so let's get this can up in the middle over there, set up in the middle over there, where everyone can get to it. You gonna leave the whole can? Yes, is that okay? Yeah, I just thought you was gonna let us scoop out some food and you'd move on. Oh, we're gonna leave the can. He pulled the food back to the middle of the area, and immediately several people came forward with their makeshift bowls. Anyone want a leash or a brush? Jordan asked. I'll take a brush, one guy said. Josie stepped forward and held the bag open so he could grab a brush. Thanks, he said, and nodded at Josie. The older man turned to young Eric. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Had a mama dog come to me some weeks ago when I was walking along, and I brought her here, and she had 6 pups, and it's been hard trying to keep her fed. Young Eric nodded. I'm glad we can help. What's your name? My name's Ricky, Jordan gasped. Young Eric smiled. Josie's eyes opened in surprise. That's my father's name, young Eric said. It's nice to meet you, Ricky. I'm Eric. Nice to meet you, too. You have 6 puppies? Josie suddenly asked. Sure do. Cute little things. Can I see? Josie asked. The man looked at young Eric, and Eric smiled and nodded. They followed the man back to a shelter made of cardboard. The mama dog immediately came to Josie, who knelt down and put out her hand. Jordan was about to tell Josie not to do that, but the dog came to her and dipped his head under Josie's hand. Josie smiled and scratched the dog's head. Hi there, doggy, Josie said. She looked up at the man. Does she have a name? Yep, we call her Sheila. Josie smiled. Hello there, Miss Sheila. Will you let me see your babies? They followed Ricky behind the cardboard shelter, and 6 adorable little brown and white pups came out of the brush, wagging their tails. Oh, look, Josie cried in glee. Oh, they're just so cute. Oh, my goodness, look, she squealed. She petted and rubbed and stroked and talked to each one until Jordan reminded her that they had work to do. Well, we have others to see, Eric said. Ricky, did you get one of the backpacks? He nodded. Yeah, I got 2, one for me, one for Jack. Who's Jack? He's my buddy. He's around here somewhere. Not quite sure where he got off to. Ricky, do you mind if I come back and visit you again? Young Eric asked. I'd like to get to know you better, and I'd like to bring you a hot meal. Well, hell, don't mind that a bit. Come on back any time. Thanks. Thank you, young man. Oh, bye, sweet puppies, Josie said sadly, and she gave them one last pet. They headed back out where Jordan had left the second trash can. They moved down a little farther and found a place to leave it and headed back to the truck for 2 more. Josie was talking a mile a minute, which made both Jordan and young Eric smile. I have never seen my sister so animated, Jordan whispered to 3. Eric nodded. Me neither. If you could speak another language, I'd talk to you about my idea, but for now, it'll have to wait until we're alone. Jordan frowned. Well, I wish you hadn't said anything then, because now I'm super curious. He grinned and stopped and pulled her to him and kissed her and then lifted her up into the bed of JoJo's truck so she could move 2 more to the edge. Meanwhile, JoJo, Raylyn, Cali, and Philip had stopped to hand out backpacks to a group of kids, 2 girls and a boy, possibly teenagers. Thanks, one of the girls said softly. You're welcome, JoJo said firmly. He was just getting ready to ask their ages when both he, Raylyn, and Philip all turned to look at Cali because they were surprised to hear her actually speak, since she'd been stubbornly quiet thus far. So, how did you guys end up here? Cali asked boldly. I think that would be none of your business, one girl said. Cali shrugged. I get that. I was just curious. I mean, I could be like you, so I was just wondering. The boy smiled. Don't pay any attention to her. She's just like that. It's probably why her mother kicked her out. The girl glared at the boy. How about you? Philip asked. The boy shrugged. Me? Well, I just got tired of my dad beating on me and I left home. I thought I was going to be able to get a job, but that didn't happen. And next thing I know, I've spent all my money and no place to live, so I was living in my car. Then some nosy Karen called the cops on me for sleeping in my car on a public street, and I smarted off to the cops and got arrested, and they towed my car, and I couldn't afford to get it out, and here I am. Wow, man, that sucks, Cali said. She turned to the other girl who hadn't spoken yet. What about you? The girl sighed. Why should I tell you anything? I mean, you won't even take off your sunglasses. What are you, a movie star or something? Cali pressed her lips together tightly, nodded her head, pulled off her hood, and removed her sunglasses. The girl gasped. Whoa, the boy said. The first girl didn't say anything. What happened to you? The boy asked. My boyfriend beat me up. Wow, the girl said. How'd you get away? Cali smiled and pointed at JoJo. He saw it happening and stepped in and saved me. Are you her brother? JoJo shook his head. No, I didn't know her at the time. So, Cali said, it's your turn. How'd you end up homeless? She shrugged. So, my parents are dead. and no one wanted me, so I ended up in foster care. And the first people were okay, but they finally got pregnant with the baby they always wanted and moved out of state. After that was a woman who had like 5 other foster kids. She was just doing it for the money. She got arrested for abusing one of the boys. And so that gig was done. And after that was a couple who were super strict weirdos, and I finally had enough and ran away. But then I got hungry and went back, but they had me moved to a different home. That place was another lady who was doing it for the money, and 2 of the boys ganged up on me, if you know what I mean, and no one would listen to me or believe me. So I ran away again, and I'm not going back there ever again. No way, not ever. How old are you? Raylan asked. I'm 16. JoJo sighed. How old are you? Kaylee asked the boy. I'm 19, and she's 17, he offered, pointing at the girl who refused to tell her story. Or so she says. JoJo looked at the guy. Have you, hooked up with either of these girls? The boy's eyes opened wide. Oh, no, man, it's not like that. I kind of look after them, you know. When I first met them, some guys were giving them a hard time, and I stepped in. I decided to stick around, you know, like a big brother or something. JoJo nodded and stepped away. I got to make a call. I'll be right back. He glanced at Philip and nodded at Kaylee and Raylin. Watch out for them a minute. Got it, Philip said. JoJo walked several steps away but kept his eyes on the Quinn sisters. Hello, son. What you got? Hey, Dad. Here's the situation. He explained the 2 stories he'd heard and told about the girl who wouldn't tell her story. Okay, Mark began. Well, 2 of them are minors and we can't leave them out there. I'll call Angel to see if she has a place. I'm going to need about 15 minutes. Yes, sir. We'll go ahead and hand out more packs and circle back. That sounds good. Get their names, and the minute you do, text them to me and take pics if they'll allow it. Got it. He ended the call and stepped forward. I'm sorry I had to make that call. So anyway, it's been nice to meet you. My name is JoJo. What's yours? The boy nodded. Ryder Bell. He stepped forward and shook hands. I'm Kaylee, Kaylee said as she offered her hand to the first girl. The girl who hadn't told her story nodded. I'm Brooke. The other girl frowned. If I tell you my name, are you going to turn me in? 'Cause I ain't going back there. I will not go back. I'd rather die. JoJo shook his head. I promise you won't go back there. She sighed. Okay. I guess I believe you. My name is Zoe. Zoe Marchant. Raylin nodded and offered her hand. It's nice to meet you, Zoe. I'm Raylin. I'm Phil, Philip said as he shook hands with all 3. Zoe looked closely at Raylin. So, is she your sister? 'Cause you look alike. Raylin nodded. Yes, we're sisters. JoJo spoke quickly. So, Ryder, Brooke, Zoe, I'd like to do a little more for you than just giving you a backpack. Maybe take you to get a good meal. Would that be okay? Sure, Ryder said quickly. JoJo smiled. Okay, good. So we need to finish giving out the backpacks that we have left because we promised to do that, but we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Ryder shrugged. Okay. Be right back, Kaylee said as they walked away and stopped at the next group and started giving away the backpacks. JoJo was on his phone again, texting names to his father. Where are you planning to get them a meal? Kaylee asked once JoJo stopped texting and they were out of earshot of the 3 kids. Anywhere they want, JoJo said softly, but I'm hoping to do more than that. I want those girls off the streets. I have my dad working on it. Oh, wow, Kaylee said with an actual smile. Well, that's cool. JoJo glanced down at Raylin. She looked up at him, also smiling. That would be wonderful if you could do that. Where will you take them? To a shelter? I mean, because you just promised Zoe that you wouldn't send her back. JoJo nodded. And I won't. But they are minors, and they can't live alone, so we can't just put them in a house or motel and leave them. I'm hoping Aunt Angel can work a miracle here. I'm waiting to hear back. Fingers crossed. So you called Mrs. Lee? I thought you said your dad is working on it. No, I called my dad, and he's making the calls for me. He told me to give him about 15 minutes. 15 minutes? He works fast. They tend to do that, Philip said quickly. So I've noticed, Raylin said softly. They worked speedily to give out the last of their backpacks, 100 in all. JoJo answered his phone immediately when his father called back. Tell me good news, JoJo said, and you're on speaker, so don't say anything ugly about Raylan or Kaylee. Mark chuckled. Darn. Okay, I'll shelve that for later. The two girls smiled. And Philip is with us, too. Well, darn, so who can I talk about? Logan. Everyone chuckled. Okay, down to business, Mark said seriously. So, I have good news and bad news. There are no places available right now. Angel made sure that all of her properties were occupied for Christmas, so she was going to take the girls in herself. But she had a better idea. Alec and Desi have an extra bedroom in their house, and Angel spoke to them and says that they are ecstatic about housing the two girls for a few weeks until a better place opens up. They're already talking about planning meals and running out to buy them gifts. They love having a chance to pay it forward. Okay, so that's cool. Yep, and then if you and Logan don't mind, I think we can handle Ryder Bell. You mean he can stay with us? Yes, I ran his name, Ryder Bell, Lake Forest, California. 19 years old, stepmother Naomi Bell works the front desk at a spa. Father Aaron Bell runs a car repair shop. Two young step-siblings, girls ages 2 and 4. Ryder was arrested 6 months ago for disorderly conduct, detailed as disturbing the peace and loitering. He was given probation and a fine, which has not been paid, and if found again, he is flagged for arrest to serve jail time. The car, which is in his name, Honda Civic, remains in impound. Well, he was upfront about the rest. He said he was homeless and sleeping in his car because he couldn't find a job. Too bad he didn't know to call Gabe's foundation, because I believe it was a false arrest and he could have not only gotten off but sued. I think I'll pull the body cam footage and see what we have. But Gabe's foundation is exactly what this was formed for. Cool. Anyway, the father, Aaron Bell, has had 4 domestic violence calls on him, 2 in the past 4 months, so that would be after Ryder left home. Before that, Ryder himself made the calls, and both times his father was able to talk his way out of it, citing Ryder as an unruly teen. That's really all I was able to find out in this short amount of time. But I believe he's safe to share our home. We'll monitor to be sure. What is your gut telling you? JoJo sighed. I think he's a good guy who's had to face some tough challenges. He's been living in a tent with 2 girls. He's not sleeping with them. He feels protective of them. Well, that might be because he has the 2 younger sisters. Right. Well, feed them. Ask them if they want off the streets. If they resist, tell them who you are so that they'll trust you. Hopefully, they'll make the right choice and their lives are about to change. Got it. Thanks, Dad. I'll call you when we're on the way. Philip smiled. He knew how these people operated. Brooke, Zoe, and Ryder had just hit the jackpot. JoJo hung up and glanced at Philip. Does that make you happy? Philip nodded yes, because I know what's about to happen. What's about to happen? Kaylee asked. Philip grinned. Well, these guys don't know it yet, but they've just hit the jackpot. The Adams and Kinos family are not just going to give them a place to stay for a few weeks and then put them out. They'll look into every problem they have. They'll get rid of Ryder's legal problems. They'll pay his fines. They'll represent him in court. They'll get his car out of impound and help him find a job. And if he's not able to do that, they'll send him to school to teach him what he needs to support himself. They'll do the same for Zoe and probably help her finish high school and make sure she has whatever she needs. And they'll look into Brooke's story, whatever it is, and help her, maybe even reunite her with her family, depending on the problem. Whatever they do, these 3, from this point forward, they're going to succeed in anything they want to do. JoJo smiled at Philip's words because they were indeed true. But why? Kaylee asked. I mean, you can't do this for everyone, right? Right, JoJo said. That would be a difficult task. So we help whomever God puts in front of us. Today, the Lord put these 3 teens in our path, and the Holy Spirit whispered to me to look further into their situation, and I did. But actually, I think, Kaylee, that the Holy Spirit whispered to you, because it was you who felt inclined to ask them how they ended up like they did. It was you who got them talking. If not for you being with us today, we might have looked right on past those 3. So thanks, Kaylee. Good job. Kaylee offered a slight smile. Raylan also smiled, her eyes meeting JoJo's. Come on, let's go see if we can talk them into taking us up on the offer, JoJo said. And what if they don't? Raylan asked. JoJo smiled. Well, then I'll get young Eric and Logan involved. The girls won't be able to resist those two guys. New scene. JoJo glanced in his rearview mirror. Brooke and Zoe sat quietly in the back seat. It was obvious that they were a little uncertain about what they agreed to, about what they'd agreed to. Ryder, on the other hand, was grateful and relieved. Philip had volunteered to take Raylyn and Kaylee home. Kaylee was tired, and they had to get ready to go to the Kino's home for dinner and for a counseling session with Grandmaster Kino. JoJo pulled into a local steakhouse called Papa's Grill. It was casual enough where the kids wouldn't feel out of place. They'd done their best to clean up. They'd changed clothes and combed hair. They'd gathered all of their belongings and put them into the bed of JoJo's truck. Their tent was given away, along with some blankets and pillows and extra clothes and coats. They were seated quickly, JoJo asking for a back table. The group was relatively quiet. The server came to take drink orders, and they looked at JoJo to order for them. He smiled. Order anything you want, guys. My treat. Of course, no alcohol. Brooke was the first to decide. Do you have milk? She asked. The server nodded. Well, it's not on the menu, but if that's what you'd like, I can certainly get you some milk. I've been craving it, she said softly. He nodded. Yes, ma'am, milk it is. He looked at Zoe. I would love some milk, too, and also a Sprite. She looked at JoJo. Would that be okay? Whatever you want. She nodded. That's what I want. Ryder ordered water and Coke, and JoJo ordered water. JoJo watched as they perused the menu. He smiled. It made him happy to be able to buy these kids a good meal. It was almost as if he could feel their hunger. He looked them over. They were obviously disheveled, dirty, also smelly. They were going to feel a lot better once they'd showered and had a good night's sleep. The server came back with their drinks, took their order, and left them a cutting board with freshly baked bread and cups of butter. JoJo cut the bread, buttered it, and began to serve them. So, JoJo began, does anyone have any questions? So, who are these people we're going to stay with? Zoe asked. You said they're a married couple? JoJo nodded. Yes. They're good friends of myself and my family. Do they have kids? Zoe asked. JoJo smiled. Not yet. Are they young? Brooke asked. Yes, they're very young. Well, how old are they? Alec is 18 and Desi is 17. Oh, wow, that's young to be married, Zoe said. JoJo nodded. Well, they have a story to tell you, but I'll give you a quick overview. They, too, were homeless. My cousin, whom I already told you is Eric Kino, found them living behind a gas station. They got pregnant on prom night when Alec was a senior and Desi was a junior. Parents got mad and kicked them out. And now they have their own house? Well, they live in a house provided to them by the Angel Network Foundation. Alec will be going back to school this next year at Stanford to get his degree in law. He's working right now at my father's law firm. Desi is due in about 4 weeks. She's really sweet. You'll like her. Well, that's pretty cool, Ryder said. And so you really are JoJo Adams, the USC quarterback? I really was. I'm not their quarterback anymore because of this, he said, lifting his right arm. Well, that sucks for you, Ryder said. It is what it is, Ryder. But I know God has other things in store for me, and I trust him. Huh. I wonder if this God has anything in store for me, he asked. JoJo nodded. I guarantee you that he does. That's why he put you in front of me today. God is with you, Ryder. You may not think he is, but he is. And he's providing you with a chance to finally rise up and do something amazing. He believes in you because he knows you. Yeah, well, where was he when my father was kicking me around? JoJo smiled. He was right there with you. Right there. If he was right there, why didn't he help me? He is helping you. Everything that happened to you so far, it's made you stronger. We all go through hard times. It's good for us. I have a feeling that you, Ryder, are going to be one of God's strongest warriors. Give it time. He's just beginning to work in your heart. Just remember, every single thing you've experienced so far has made you the person you are today. Do you think you're a good person? He shrugged. I guess. He is, Zoe said. He's been like our hero. JoJo nodded. I agree. He is. I don't know him, but I have discernment, and I feel he's a good person. He's seen some of the ugliness in the world, and he's already overcoming. I'm excited to see how this goes. And the point I was making is everything that he's been through so far, the good and the bad, has made him what he is today. Everything happens for a reason, so be grateful. I don't get it, Ryder said. JoJo shrugged. Okay. So, if you hadn't been kicked around by your father, would you have left your home? If you hadn't been toughened up by your father, would you have stepped in to help out these girls when they needed you? You weren't afraid of stepping in because you were used to confrontation. You stepped in, and what's more is, you haven't taken advantage of these two innocent girls. You stood up and did the right thing. Ryder frowned as he thought about the words JoJo just spoke, and he looked into JoJo's sincere eyes. And JoJo smiled. Give it time. Give God a chance. He's working in you. New scene. It is December 23rd, Monday afternoon. The Village Garden Apartments, Huntington Beach, California. Mika hurried back from the store with her bag of soda and chips. She'd promised her mother that she would get the apartment all clean and ready for Christmas, but she'd been craving some of her favorite nacho chips and a Dr. Pepper. Her mother only had to work a half day. Her mother only had to work a half a day tomorrow on Christmas Eve and had all of Christmas Day off, and because of the Kino's gift to the families in the apartments, Mika and her mother were planning to have a real celebration. Mika was excited because it seemed like her life was changing. Her mother had actually come to church to watch her sing yesterday. What's more, she complimented Mika and actually said she was proud of her. In all of Mika's 16 years, she never recalled her mother saying she was proud of her. Mika intended to keep that going, get the apartment all cleaned up, finish putting up the decorations that the Kinos had provided for each apartment. They had a small artificial tree with lights on it. Mika couldn't wait to finish wrapping the gifts she'd bought for her mother and put them under the tree and see her mom's face on Christmas morning. In the service yesterday, Reverend Clark had talked about how good it felt to give gifts. Mika nodded with a smile. He was right. It was going to be so awesome. It had always been Mika and her mom. She had no siblings. She didn't know her father. Her mother had gotten pregnant in high school and had done her best to provide for Mika. She worked 2 jobs most of Mika's life. She was always so tired, but lately, she seemed different. Actually, it had been ever since she'd met with the Kinos about her financial situation. She now felt hopeful. She could see the light at the end of the tunnel. She had a definite plan of action, she told Mika. She said she knew things were about to change, and Mika believed her. So, she headed home with her snacks to finish up the preparations, but turned when a familiar voice called her name. Mika, she heard, and turned with a smile. Teo, she replied, with his nickname instead of his full name. Hey. She walked over to him where he sat on the low wall that separated the apartment property from the church property. He jumped down off the wall. What's good, baby? Me, she said with a giggle. I know it, he said. Chill with me for a minute. I can't. I have to go home and clean stuff. He shook his head and pulled her close. You can clean me. She smiled and looked him over. Mateo was her dream. Every girl wanted him, but he was hers. He was blended, light skin. The tips of his curls were blonde, while the base was ash brown. He was the CEO of Hot. He pushed her against the wall, tilted her face up, and kissed her. Immediately, though, he started to unbutton her jeans. Stop, Teo, she said breathlessly. She pushed his hands down. Why? You mine? Yeah, but not like that. Not anymore. What are you talking about? I want to do things right. I'm changing the way I've been. Are you letting that choir boy get into your head? It's not him. It's it's Jesus. Give me a break. It's facts, Teo. I'm going to clean up and get right. He cursed. You want to lose me? No, I just want us to be different. This is trash, Mika. She sighed. Well, yeah. I gotta go. He grabbed her arm. Wait, let's talk about it. There's nothing to talk about, she said. Okay. Well, let me come home with you and we'll just chill for a minute. She sighed and nodded. They walked slowly back to her apartment. She offered him some of her soda and chips, and they sat on the small couch and ate and listened to some music. And finally he put his arm around her and they snuggled. And shortly after that he kissed her again, and this time he took his time. After several minutes he pulled his shirt over his head. Mika swallowed hard. It wasn't that his chest was like some big muscle boy, but it was cut, and all that light-colored skin, it was so pretty, so mesmerizing. She ran her eyes over him and then her hands. He smiled. He knew he had her now. He kissed her harder, pushed her onto her back, and after a few more minutes worked on getting her clothing off. He thought it was a green light, but it was like she suddenly snapped out of it. "No, Teo, I already told you no," she said as she struggled to get out from under him. That's not the message I got," he quipped, almost laughing at her. She started to struggle for real, but he was too strong. Before she realized what he intended, he covered her mouth with his hand. No one heard the muffled screams. When he finished, he smiled at her. "You know you like it," he said. "I'll see you tomorrow. I got a present for you." Mika didn't know what to say. She pulled her clothes back on. "You mad?" he asked. She sniffed. "Yes, I'm mad. I told you I didn't want to do that anymore." "Well, then you don't want me anymore." Her eyes blinked. When she didn't answer, he figured all was good. He moved forward and actually kissed her goodbye. Tamika watched the door close and quickly went to lock it. When she blinked again, 2 tears ran over her cheeks. She looked upward. She didn't know what to do now. She only knew she had to do better. New scene. It is still December 23rd. It's Monday afternoon at the Quinn House, Los Angeles, California. Katie looked over at Philip as he drove. He was a nice guy. Too bad she wasn't younger, because she'd almost be interested. "So, Phil, how old are you?" "I'm 16. How old are you?" "I'm 18. What grade are you in?" "I'm a junior at Oceanside High, over in Huntington Beach." "And you're Melody's brother, right?" "Right. And Melody's boyfriend is Logan Adams, JoJo's brother, right?" "Right." In the back seat, Raylan smiled. It seemed like her sister was pulling out of her funk. She was showing interest in other people. JoJo had been right. Having her help out, making her focus on someone else other than herself, it worked wonders. The change within only a few hours is almost miraculous. "So, do you have a girlfriend?" Kaylee asked. Philip shook his head with a smile. "No." "Why? You want the position?" he joked. Kaylee laughed. "If I was 2 years younger, yeah." Philip grinned. "Oh, I can handle that." Kaylee giggled. "Aw, you are so cute." Philip rolled his eyes. Raylan couldn't believe it. Her sister was actually flirting. "I can't believe you don't have a girlfriend," Kaylee went on. Philip shrugged. "I'm too busy. Football takes up most of my time and school stuff, and then doing stuff like we did today, going to church. Since I've been out of the hospital, my focus has been mostly on that." "The hospital? Why were you in the hospital?" It's a long story." "Well, make it quick." He chuckled. "I got in a fight with my sister's ex. He bashed my head in and I had a brain injury. They say I could have died, but Miss Dr. Kino Wallace, she worked on me, and I'm doing very well, and people prayed for me, and I got better really fast." "Wow. So how long ago was that?" "About 4 weeks ago." "Oh, so you really are doing better." He nodded. "God is good," he said, as he pulled up in front of their little blue house. He turned off the car and jumped out to go open doors, but both sisters got out before he could get there. Ray smiled at him. "Thanks so much for the ride, Phil. It's been very nice getting to meet you and work with you today." "It was my pleasure," he said with a smile. He reached out and shook her hand, then turned to Kaylee. "Seriously, Kaylee, I know, things have been tough for you lately, but if you ever want to talk or just hang out or something, I might be younger, but I'm a good friend." "Aw, thanks, Phil. I'll keep that in mind." The girls turned and made their way into the house. Philip stood there and watched to make sure they got inside okay. He sighed. He felt something stir in him. There was a problem in this world, and it needed to be fixed. Sighing, he decided he was going to talk to JoJo, his hero, and have him cover the subject he thought should be covered next sermon. That is the end of chapter 26. Bum, bum, bum.